this press conference. We are glad that you're able to come in this large number, and therefore thank you very much for responding positively to our invitation. Now, this morning we have invited you here to brief you on a number of issues that relate to the government and its interaction with its people. As you may be aware, there are already issues that have been taking place around Nyamakima area, issues to do with the trade and counterfeit goods, but there are also issues to do with second-hand vehicle spare parts. So I want to brief you on those, and thereafter you'll be able to ask questions. And therefore, we as a government have taken note about the sentiments that have been expressed by a section of businessmen and business people around the area of Nyamakima. And they've been complaining specifically that the government action has undermined their businesses, in the sense that the government has been insensitive to what them as businessmen have been doing. Now, us as a government, we are a government that is pro-business, a government that has set in place legislation as well as policy that promote a good and a conducive business environment, and therefore these allegations that the government has undermined their business just to the extent that they are losing money is not true. They are also saying that the government has contributed to the loss of about 166 containers at the port of Mombasa, which ultimately have impacted on their businesses. We as a government are aware about the position that there is, and therefore this morning I want to give you the true position of such complaints. The complaints came about because of a crackdown that has been carried out by a task force on illegal business, a task force on counterfeit goods. And you'd recall that at some time back, this task force was able to impound the same number of containers they are complaining about. That's 160 containers, 166 to be precise. These containers did not have relevant documentation. Neither did they have declaration forms to show what is in these containers. However, after a discussion between the government and the businessmen, 132 containers were released. Not 134 actually, no, 134, not 132, 134. That left 132 containers at the port. Now those 132 were released on condition that duty must be paid and the goods in those containers must meet the necessary standards as set by the government. The 32 containers that are still held in Mombasa do not have proper documentation. So you can understand where this complaint is coming from. Now the crackdown was actually necessitated by the desire of government to enforce measures to ensure that duty is actually collected on all imported goods, but also to ensure that there is less entry into the market here of counterfeit goods. So some of those goods that have been coming into the market, like I've mentioned, were evading tax. They were not meeting, quality standards as put by the government, and therefore goods that were actually not suitable for consumption in the country. And therefore, as a government, you must be able to protect the people of this country. Some of the goods that have been known to be brought in the country illegally are edible oils, detergents, electronic goods. And from that crackdown, the sales of edible oils have gone up. So you can see what that has done to the economy and what evasion of duty was doing to the economy. It was actually killing the industry here. So coming out of that crackdown, we can see manufacturing also going up by about 4.2%. So there are good things happening. Now, the other complaint is about consolidation of imported goods. Now, previously, these businessmen would go to China, Japan, and buy goods, consolidate them in one container, and then bring them home for verification and inspection at the port of Mombasa. Now, what the government has done now is to ensure that verification and inspection of goods is done at the port of dispatch. So it's no longer done at the port of Mombasa. So what the government actually done is to enhance compliance requirements. So that there are 5 companies that have been nominated by government, very reputable companies, to undertake checks, pre-shipment checks, consolidation, and they are shipped after consolidation, so that there is no more checks at the port of Mombasa. So this is what they are complaining about. Why? Because previously they would consolidate them without checks, come to Mombasa, and then be able to bribe some very dishonest government official, and then bring in the goods without having paid duty. So you can see that this is a complaint that has got no basis whatsoever. What the government has actually done is just to ensure that there is compliance, so that duty can be collected enough for the government to be able to provide services to many of the Kenyans. The other complaint that I also wish to brief you on is about the import of second-hand goods, or second-hand spare part, let me say it that way. The policy of the government that is being discussed, that has not been completed or concluded, is that as of now, we are all able to import vehicles that are up to 80 years old. What is under discussion is that there will be a time whereby those vehicles that will be imported in the country will not exceed 5 years. That is a subject that is still on the table. It has not been concluded. However, what has been concluded is that there will be a ban on second-hand spare parts. Now, I am saying this well aware that KEBS issued a statement. And what I'm saying and what KEBS did say are the same. I just want to clarify. Now, the ban is not total. The ban is on selected second-hand spare parts, those that we normally call expendable spare parts. These are things like thyroid ends, tubes, tires, brake pads, brake lining, because these have contributed to the many accidents that we are seeing in the country. Of course, you would recall, I think sometime in February this year, there's a lorry that lost control around Kikope and hit a matatu, and all the occupants of that matatu lost their lives, including, I think, one artist from Nakuru. That's just one example, but there's so many examples that you can think of lorries that have lost control because either one tire came off or it was not able to brake in good time. So government must be able to protect those people who are using public transport. And that is the genesis of this. So I just want to make sure that you get me right. It is not a total ban. It is on selected expendable items. I also wish to brief you on what is going on again in the country about the implementation of the new CBC, which is a curriculum-based, a competent-based curriculum. Now, there have been issues regarding whether there was sufficient public participation, whether there was sufficient or there is sufficient preparation in the schools as far as facilities are concerned, about capacity of the teachers. And I'm here to tell you this morning that the implementation of the CBC could not have been rolled out without sufficient public participation. This is a lengthy process that began way back about 5 years ago. And the implementation only comes at the tail end of that process. The process of engagement with the public was spearheaded by National Steering Committee for Curriculum Development. And there are many stakeholders, including KUPPET, including NAT, including Kenya Publisher Alliance. Many other stakeholders were involved. Of course, I'll give you a list of all those who were involved. Okay? And therefore, this sentiment that are coming around, that this curriculum is being implemented without sufficient public participation, is not true. Of course, participation, or the need for participation, is an ongoing process. We'll continue engaging. And the whole idea is to have a curriculum that can be able to teach our children the necessary skills that would enable them to be marketable within the job market.